Welcome back to Trading 360. Time for the 360 round. All about the latest from Disney. We got the report after the bell. The stock is jumping today. Ken Leon, Global Director, Industry and Equity Research at CFRA, is with me, and Roxanna Islam, Head of Sector and Industry Research at Verify. Thank you both for being with me. This, as Disney is up about 12%. Ken, I'll start with you. I mean, in addition to, there are so many parts of this. They have the new deal, streaming, they have the Epic purchase, the latest quarter. What stands out to you? Where's Disney headed? Because we see the 12% gain today.
Well, there's probably about 12 different subjects, but we're seeing mostly visibility of Bob Iger's strategy put to action. And we're definitely seeing concrete steps to really move ahead with the new Disney, and also fixing some old problems where we saw significant operating losses. So I can go in 12 different topics, but I'm not going to take all the airtime.
Okay, and then I want to hear where you think it's headed, really, because it's at 111 today. Roxanna, one thing when we talk about the streaming and Disney Plus, for example, actually losing viewership, it almost is a head scratcher. How could they lose viewership, right? I mean, I guess it's somewhat improved, but still. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts about the latest quarter.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this was an important quarter to watch. We had all been eyeing Disney's profitability, particularly in light of the streaming wars that everyone knows is happening. So, we talk a lot about cutting costs, but I think it's really important to remember you have to do that without sacrificing good content. You also have to watch the top line, make sure that you're actually growing subscribers, or at least growing that revenue stream. So when you're trying to grow your streaming business, I think it's very difficult to cut some of those costs, especially when you're competing with someone like Netflix, who is the only profitable streaming business out there right now. So, I think there's a lot of competition and oversaturation in the market. The good news is Disney has a great brand. I mean, it's one of the only global brands that everyone knows. It has fans from little kids to older adults. So it has a very good place in the market because of that. They've just had sort of a weak content slate over the past few quarters. This past year, they had some really disappointing box office releases like the Marvels and Wish, and there's nothing really scheduled coming up on this next quarter in the box office. And I think on their Disney Plus streaming catalog, they're a little bit dry in their series. I think they're depending on Marvel a little bit too much, and they have the opportunity to sort of branch out beyond that. I think they would be a lot more successful with their content.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that. And Kenneth, I mean, I'll tell you, you reiterated your buy. You put a 120 target up from 105. And tell me a little bit about the different areas, right? Theme parks did well. Break it down a little bit. Was there anything that jumped out at you?
So I think the area that really shows improvement will be in direct to consumer, moving that closer to profitability towards the end of this year, their fiscal year. We're also seeing really smart actions on managing their programming and production costs, and we will see by summer into the fall, hopefully some blockbuster film releases. They're also investing in both theme park and cruise lines. Those are going to have not only growth this year, but for a decade to come. The key, though, is they're doing some things that please all investors and maybe the shareholder activists, where they're cost cutting. They expect to exceed $7.5 billion this year. Their free cash flow is likely to exceed their target. They did announce a 50% increase in the dividend, and they also have a new authorized share buyback for the first time in 4 or 5 years. Yeah. All this is good for shareholders. The stock is going up. The consensus, I think their target has moved up to 106. We're at 120, but basically we like everything here, and even how they're really driving the ESPN sports segment. The announcement with Fox and Warner Brothers Discovery is really for that percentage of the households or viewers that are not on cable, and they would look to a super bundle of sports with streaming. They're getting into gaming. They're also going to tie sports into betting with ESPN Bet. All this, I think, leads to a much more optimistic view of the fundamentals and the outlook for the stock.
Yeah, and when I thought about that deal, I was curious to see whether or not you thought it was a good one. So you do like that deal. What do you think, Roxana, when you think about that deal? Fox has already done a similar deal abroad, so they are, intrinsically already know how to do this kind of deal. So do you view this as a win? The also $1.5 billion into Epic Games, because maybe gaming is the way. What do you think of some of the deals that are being made here?
Yeah, so the sports package I thought was significant news. I mean, it certainly turned some heads. When we talk about gaining market share, I mentioned Netflix and some of the other streaming giants. So there's that direction they can go. And then there's also the direction of taking market share from some of that cable broadcast TV. And a lot of viewers still hold on to that because of the sports packages. So, a lot of people are throwing out the $40, $50 price range for this package. I think it does sound like a reasonable price point, but I think you do have to view it on sort of a broader perspective and say, well, streaming used to be so much cheaper than cable TV, and now you're looking at multiple different packages, not just in sports, but in different streaming channels. People don't really have an infinite amount to spend on these streaming packages. So is this going to be something that'll catch on, especially when you don't have some of those really high-profile NFL packages from giants like CBS and NBC? And with the video gaming, I think that also makes a lot of sense because, again, talking about market share, we're also looking at potentially taking market share from other entertainment avenues, and that includes things like audio streaming or video gaming. So, I think this is a really smart way to grow their revenue stream in video gaming, which is adjacent to the streaming business that they have. And the size of that investment, I think, was also pretty smart because that $1.5 billion, I think, is a small enough investment where you could potentially grow some of that revenue stream, but it won't really be a huge concern, if it's not that successful.
Yeah, understood. Great to see you both. Ken Leon at CFRA, Roxanna Islam at Vetify. That's going to do it. Thank you. Good luck there at Disney today.